You're listening to the Comic Crusaders Podcast. I am your host, Al Mega, CEO of Comic Crusaders and Undercover Capes. In this show, I'm sitting down with creators from all walks of life to talk about inspiration, process, the lessons they've learned, and a whole lot more. What up, man? This is your boy, Al Mega. Welcome to a brand new Comic Crusaders Podcast. And today, we have an awesome treat for you, because I know in every type of form you must have seen this man's work, whether it was TV, comics, books, somewhere he is like a king of all media right here. All right, he a boss. All right, he a TV producer, he's a writer, he's a creator, he's a comic book writer, and right now he is dipping into that creator-owned journey in comics. He got a dope book out right now called Torrent out on Image Comics, and he got some other books coming out we're going to be talking about. Let me introduce the legend, the one, the only Marc Guggenheim. Hi! What up, kiddo? How you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for that introduction. Seriously, like, the check's in the mail. I appreciate it. Really great. I'm also I'll cancel therapy for the week because I thought, that'll do me. That's good for me. So thanks, man.
Good for the ego. Yes. So we celebrate, man. Because thank you, brother. Let me tell you, like I was saying in the green room, we definitely help some marriages, if you will, with the connection between geek and comics. With shows you've been a part of and all that stuff. So, thank you for that and helping to make that bridge at least.
Hey, that's what we're all about, bringing people together. I'm just trying to bring people. And like I said to you in the green room, like, I'm glad it helped your marriage working on the shows to not do much for my marriage. Okay, mostly. But there were dark times. It's always great to hear that it's helping bring people together. That's always really, really nice.
Yeah, but it's a little bit about yourself for those that are unknown. Where you OG from?
I'm originally from Long Island, New York.
New York? Well,
yeah.
So you know about good pizza, good food.
Oh, yeah.
I just moved back to Mass, so it's like no more good pizza for me. No more bacon, egg, and cheese on a proper roll.
I tell you, every time I go back to New York, it's like I just put on like 10 pounds. It's ridiculous. New York's the best. Like it's awesome. Like it's funny. I went back for a brief trip last week, and just driving into the city from the airport, I started to just feel better. I felt like just the energy of the city is it's so fulfilling to me, and it really rejuvenates me, and it's great. It's just the best.
It's like you're a Tesla. You start recharging once you hit the city. Right?
Yes, exactly. That's right. And it's funny. Now there's a company called Revel, which is it's a rideshare company that's only Teslas. So it's you see all these Teslas, blue Teslas, running around New York City. It's great.
Interesting. So, what was your first love in fandom?
It's funny. I actually don't know, because one of my first memories was flipping through, because I couldn't read then, flipping through a Superman comic on the floor of my bedroom. And like my mother came in, she was like, "Oh my God, I've got a savant. He's reading already." And like, no, I'm just looking at the pictures. I don't even know where it's from. So I've been in it since, literally like one of the first things I can remember. Like I want to say like one of the probably like first non-comic book geek things that I was aware of was a show called The $6 Million Man.
I loved it.
Which, so formative for me. So like from jump, really, I was into this stuff.
Did you have the toys? Did you have the meat?
Oh yeah.
You could see through and see the mechanics and all. No, you don't. Tell me, this folks, ladies and gentlemen, this guy is about a pullout. A Lee Majors old school $6 million man figure. I hope we could. This is what I expect. Oh my! Oh! Wow!
Yeah.
Man,
leaving here to keep me company during the podcast. That's good.
That is so cool. You have just blown my mind. Mark.
Yeah, I loved it. It was like one of the first shows I was even like sort of aware of, like, that was, it wasn't a cartoon or wasn't like Sesame Street or something,
It was definitely like, oh my God, a man could be a robot in real life.
It was awesome. Kids. I just like it was like that show just blew me away. It just totally blew me away. It was it was. I mean, honestly, like it was legitimately a superhero show. That's what it was. I can't wait. I keep waiting for someone to reboot that franchise. They can adjust for inflation, but
didn't they try to do it via the Bionic Woman not too long ago?
They did like a Bionic Woman series like 15 years ago or so. They did, Mark Wahlberg has been attached to forever, a lot.
This is again AI Lee Majors.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they're always saying like it's the $1 billion man. But still, give it to me. Like, just give it to me. I want it already. Absolutely love it.
Oh man, but okay. So what did you have a tribe with your geekdom growing up?
I had some friends, like in elementary school, I had a group of friends, that lasted to like junior high. We were all into the same stuff. We were all into, Star Wars by that point and playing with the Star Wars action figures. And I remember, it's funny, I very vividly remember like in elementary school, I loved the Mego figures, the Mego dolls.
Yeah.
And I got Thor. And Thor had like long plastic hair. And I got made fun of by all my friends because they're like, "Oh, that's a girl's toy." Because, guy dolls couldn't have long plastic hair, apparently. That was,
they need to have the stiff plastic hair.
Yeah, exactly. So I had friends and frenemies and all sorts of things. I've, like most people, I've sort of, gone to Comic-Con each year and tried to rebuy my childhood.
All right. Let me ask, what was your first Comic-Con like ever? What age did you go?
Ooh, good question. I don't remember. I was pretty young because I was living on Long Island, and my dad took me and my brothers into the city. Basically, like if you take the train into Manhattan, you get out at Penn Station, you go up an escalator, and you basically cross the street, and there was the Pennsylvania Hotel. And the Pennsylvania Hotel had these several times a year comic book conventions. And these were like real old school kind of conventions, but they
only
comics. It was great, actually. It was only comics. You could get, they had back issues, original art. And because it was New York and DC and Marvel were both in New York at the time, there were a lot, like Stan Lee was there, like I have a copy of a comic signed by Stan Lee. Jim Shooter, all the OG guys.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool. So yeah, that was that to me was what a real comic book convention was.
And funny enough, Mark, it was one of those conventions that was my first too at the
really.
Pit. Yeah.
Oh,
I
that's
was
cool.
so overwhelmed. I was like, oh my God, when the 50-cent bins were worth something.
Yeah.
Gems for 50 cents.
Absolutely.
Nowadays, those gems are now on sales worth hundreds.
I know, man. Tell me about it. I mean, like I grew up like one of the there was like a strip mall near my parents' house, and there was a store called A&B Book Sale, and it basically was like they sold used books for like a quarter. And they at the back of the store were all these comics. That were also being sold for 10 cents, 25 cents.
Oh my God, I had a bookstore the same.
Yeah, it's great. Like I got
a bag of four to a bag for $1.
Like you would just go through and try to, and you would find all these gems and it didn't matter that they weren't in good condition. It
don't matter.
But it was like so much of my collection was that. And yeah, I got so I have so many books still there from that place. It was great.
That's amazing. All right, so when did you start getting creative, Mark? When did you start taking this stuff seriously? Like, all right, I want to do something with this.
I got to tell you, pretty late. I was the editor-in-chief of my high school's literary magazine. I wrote a couple of short stories. But apart from that, I really hadn't done any kind of creative writing. I was actually trying to be an artist. Like, I did a lot. Yeah. I did a lot of art. I was never very good. But
in your opinion.
No.
Oh, really?
And then when I was a kid, I made comic books by folding up, typewriting paper and stuff. But in terms of actually like being sort of doing it as a discipline, it wasn't until I was in my third year of law school, and my younger brother Eric was in his senior year of film school, and he asked if I would co-write a script with him, and I was like, sure, why not? And I had a blast doing it. It was a lot of fun. And that kind of, I always say, like, that's when I got bit by the bug. But that's 25 years, 24, 25 years old. So yeah, it was pretty late. It's not that I didn't want, it's not that I wasn't creative. Like I said, I was really sort of focusing on art up till then. But I never thought like, oh, I would actually do it as a job, and it would always be a hobby.
So when you were doing law, was it like entertainment law? Was that your specific
No,
thing, or a whole different direction?
Yeah, totally different direction.
I love this.
I was doing litigation, usually a lot of business litigation. Yeah. In Boston.
So much fun. Huh?
Yeah. Oh my God, it was horrible. It's a horrible way.
I'm in Mass now. I just moved to Webster. Check that out.
Oh, awesome. I represented Hopkinton in a case back when I was practicing in Boston. I love Boston. The weather started to get to me towards the end, but because it can get cold and cloudy. But yeah, it was great. Boston was really good to me.
Excellent. All right. So, what was the first professional opportunity like for you when it happened?
The first time I was on a show called The Practice, which was a law show that, as it turns out, was set in Boston. So I had a lot of, I had done a lot of research. I did 5 years worth of research, I'd like to say. So yeah, it was a great show by David Kelly, who did Alan McBeal and Big Little Lies and a million. He's a titan. He's done a million shows and has like a million Emmys. He meets you, you meet him, and he gives you an Emmy. He's like, I don't know what to do with all. And he was looking for first-year writers who used to be lawyers. And it was a classic example of right place, right time. I don't think it hurt that I knew the ins and outs of Massachusetts, law. But he hired me, and away I went.
Wow. Awesome. Yeah. So overall on the journey, man, when did your geekdom start getting incorporated in your journey?
Well, I'll tell you, that's kind of interesting, because what happened was I was making a living in television, and I was basically like, I was working on law shows and then some character shows. And like, meanwhile, I'm trying to break into comics, and breaking into comics is harder than breaking into Hollywood, believe it or not, because
really?
As a writer,
that exclusive.
Here's the thing. It's different for an artist, but for a writer, there's no managers, there's no agents, there's no on-ramp, whereas in television, you've got staffing season, you have script competitions, you have managers, you have agents. Like, it's a whole different, system. So anyway, long story short, it was in my 5th year of writing for TV when I got my first job writing comics. And, then for like the longest time, it was like I had like the TV on one side and comic books on the other. And I never managed to sort of mesh them together. And I finished doing a show called Eli Stone, which had, some light sci-fi elements to it, more like sort of, realistic fantasy. And I was like, okay, after Eli, I'm going to finally combine these two sides of my career. And I worked on a show called Flash Forward. And then I wrote on a show called No Ordinary Family, which was about a superpowered family. And then I did Arrow. And, with Arrow, I think, and everything that begat, I look back on it sometimes. I'm like, the whole idea of like combining the TV side and the comic book side, I might have overcorrected. But I don't mean that in a bad way. It was like, it's been really, really good to me. But it's like, wow, talk about actually like making good on a resolution. So it kind of, it took a while because I was like, about 8 years or 9 years into my TV career before I really truly crossed the streams, as it were. So yeah,
it's a journey, folks. It's never an overnight success. You see, folks.
Well,
sweat and tears.
I'll tell you, it takes years to become an overnight success. It is really, it's like when I was, when I started writing, I started writing TV shows in my third year of law school. That the first thing I did with my brother Eric was a spec pilot for a show called Picket Fences, and it basically took about a solid 5 to 6 years before I got hired on the practice. And when you hired on when you're on that show, that was also a really big show at the time. It was like boom, it was like overnight success. But it took 5 years to get there.
Insane. Yeah. All right, so why now all this change? Because I started seeing some stuff and some talk. I said, all right, want to navigate a little differently, getting into some creator-owned comics and whatnot. What happened here, brother? Well,
here's another. This is another classic example of an overcorrection. So I'll tell you what happened. So in 2020, I was wrapping. January of 2020, I was finishing up my work on the Arrowverse. We were in post production on, on Crisis on Infinite Earths. I directed my first episode of TV with Legends of Tomorrow, and I was done. And my New Year's resolution for 2020 was, I'm gonna use the free time that I will be blessed with by stopping work on the Arrowverse. I'm gonna spend that time doing creator-owned comics. I really want to make a big push into creator-owned comics. And then what happened was the pandemic hit. and suddenly television and film production was shut down, and I suddenly had all this extra time on my hands that I didn't anticipate. So I just started writing. Creator-owned comics, and a lot of them were ideas that I had in my notebook for years. And it's just kind of weird. It's very it's a strange coincidence that in the last 4 months, 4 projects that I had started back in March of 2020 have all come to fruition at the same time, pretty much. It looks like I'm flooding the zone with all this comic book work.
Look at me, I'm a beast.
It wasn't like that. I was it was really stuff that was started in March, April, and May of 2020 that just by coincidence, by circumstance, just by random acts of fate, they all sort of ended up hitting the market within the same 4-month period. But yeah,
let's start seeing at least.
Okay, cool.
I got 2 of them that we could look at for sure.
Love it.
And this is the one that's out right now, folks. At your local comic shop, just drop this baby. Make sure to make it a sellout.
I appreciate that. Yes, I would love for it to sell out. That would make me extraordinarily happy.
Hey, you're building a universe here, kiddo. So explain.
Well, I'll tell you. So here's the thing. This is one of those comics that kind of starts out as one thing and evolves and becomes not something else, but something more.
Oh, and I did not see where it was going. I was
yeah. So basically, originally this started out as really what I call a thought experiment. It was can I take a character like Spider-Man and turn them into a character like the Punisher? And just that from that kind of relatively simple nugget sort of grew this book, which is, it's its own sort of superhero universe. Because
what were you reading that day? What were you drinking? And you're like, wait a minute.
I'll tell you, man, I I don't know where the ideas come from. I'm not one of those writers who like knows sort of where they were or how they were thinking when they get an idea. Like, I don't even write down the ideas at first. I wait. Like if it goes into my notebook, it goes into my notebook after a period of weeks or sometimes even months. Because I kind of like, one of the ways I test the idea is to see if my brain just keeps coming back to it.
Wow.
Does it stick with me? Does it stick with me long enough for me to go, okay, that's notebook worthy, basically. This was one of those projects, and it's funny. I realized in sort of working out the story and writing the scripts that I'm returning to a lot of themes that I explored with Arrow, but from a different kind of perspective. It's got a very Arrow-esque quality to it. So if you liked Arrow, you'd probably dig this book, because I'm playing around with the same colors on the palette, but I'm making a different painting with them.
Oh yeah, but it's a fun painting indeed. I've been, folks, don't be jealous now, but I've been privy to the first 4 issues, and I'm left still waiting. Like, oh my God, there's so much more. Like, we'll find out how many more issues this is. But talk about your team, because look at
it's a great team.
Fire, yo.
Well, first and foremost, I'm joined again by Justin Greenwood. Justin and I have worked together before for Oni Press. We did Resurrection together, and then we did a graphic novel called Stringers. And, again, this was like during the pandemic. We were just talking on the phone, and, we've kept in touch over the years, and we were just sort of talking what each of us were up to. And, Justin was like, look, I'm starting, to like sort of see ahead to a point where I'll have a hole in my schedule if you, want to do something. I'm like, fuck yeah, I want to do something. And I knew I had the idea for Torrent, sort of in my back pocket, and I pitched it to him, and he was into it. And so I wrote up like a, sort of like this document that was sort of like a brain dump of sort of everything I had up to that point. And off of that, Justin started developing, the characters and the looks and everything. So it's a joy to work with Justin. And he brought on board our colorist, Rico Renzi, who, I wanted to talk about Rico in conjunction with our designer and letterer, Keith Wood, because, and this page that you've got up is actually a perfect example of kind of what we're going for here, which is a real sort of Bronze Age feel, but told in a 2023 manner, so we're sort of like, kind of like the way in 1980, 1983, 1982, Raiders of the Lost Ark told a story with a 1982 sensibility, but it was inspired by the serials of the 1930s. We're telling a modern day comic book very much inspired by the feel and the aesthetics of the Bronze Age of comics. So that's why, like, what Justin's doing on the page, but really very much aided and abetted by Rico and Keith is giving us this kind of feel that, like, it's reminiscent of the Bronze Age, but it feels kind of timeless. And, the story that we're telling is very modern. And that's very much by design, because, if you sort of think of it, like, to me, Spider-Man kind of represents, the silver, the bronze, the star of the Bronze Age. Yeah. And Punisher, just that idea, that tone represents a lot of what the modern age has become, that sort of dark and gritty and everything. So we're playing around with the language of our medium here to help tell this story. It's been a real blast. And like, you'll see, like, that's a very sort of Bronze Agey kind of splash page with the, we're actually like putting titles on the actual pages as opposed to
right
and stuff.
Look at that panel usage. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, and I love just the way Justin conveys action and motion. There's something very Frank Miller-esque to me. To my mind, there's no artist who's ever been better at conveying characters and motion than Frank Miller. And Justin, is sort of almost, not homaging him here, but channeling him here to the point where it really fits with the story, because this story is, has very major Frank Miller influences from a writing perspective. So we're, again, we're sort of doing that Frank Miller-esque type of thing, both on, with the art and with the script.
And introduce us to our heroine here.
Yeah, this is Michelle Metcalf, who's, she's kind of designed to be a little bit like Speedball, if you know that Steve Ditko character.
Oh, okay, yes.
Kind of wanted to give her a very sort of kinetic, very light kind of power and way of moving, because that's the idea of the character, right? Is that she's light on her feet, both literally and emotionally, so that we're gonna be able to take her from a very high and pull her down as much as possible.
Oh man, don't do you?
and the other guy here is Slipstream, who is this, I sort of call him a wannabe sidekick. He's dying to be Robin to Michelle's Batman, but she's not having it. And just writing their dynamic was a lot of fun.
I mean, look at her in action. She do not play.
Yeah, she's great. Like she's I love, I love, female characters, and I love, sort of tough female characters. I've got two daughters, and
you definitely get the emotion.
For sure. I mean, that, or at least that's, and my wife is a working mom. So, and that's kind of how I tried to write Michelle, is that, Michelle is also a working mom. It just so happens that her job is being a superhero.
Which explains why she don't want no sidekick.
Yeah, exactly. She's got enough trouble. Got enough problems. So yeah, it's just, this has been such a fun book to work on. And, I'm structuring it like, every 5 issues is its own arc.
Oh, wait a minute. So this is an ongoing. It's not no minute.
This is an ongoing.
Oh my God, Mark! Really? I'm so happy right now. You've made me super happy.
Well, it's funny. I always like to say the difference between an ongoing and a mini is sales at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it's up to the readers, really, at the end of the day. But it's conceived of as an ongoing. It's planned. Justin and I are working on the second arc right now. Working on the character designs and the, for the big bad of arc number 2. And I'm like structuring it so that like every 5th issue is the end of an arc. And like, hopefully if I've done my job right, at the end of issue 5, you go, how is there going to be an issue 6? And at the end of issue 10, you go, how's there possibly going to be an issue 11? That's kind of the task I've set for myself with this book.
You left me right now as I can't wait for issue 5. My God,
you read 4, which has a I really like 4. 4's got a great sort of, cliffhanger-y third act, all is lost kind of feel to it.
Cliffhanger. You left me fired up, like, oh my God. I would not ask you to spoil it for me, of course. I want to definitely see it with my own eyes, but it definitely did take quite the turn. That it definitely started one way, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, what's going on here? Oh man, it starts flipping, and I love it's skillfully done, my brother.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that very much.
Yeah, I mean, people definitely got to put this in focus. It's ongoing from him. It's comics. I mean, what else do you want? And there's another one too. Because homie busy talking about projects. So I got, it was this one, and he has more than this, folks. So you can look at the articles on Comic Crusaders, you can see. But there's the other book that he got out too. I mean, look at this. Look at this cover. My gosh.
Yeah, this is the colors by Chris Sotomayor, who I've worked with on other projects before, and he was actually my first choice for the colors on this book. It's a gorgeous book. Benny Lobel does the art, and he's he's like perfectly cast. This is a book about these things called fragmentations that open up all around the world, where basically, like, think of them as like little portals or windows into historical events or moments in history. And this is causing all sort of chaos and problems throughout the world.
What do you mean? Wait. Is it just a moment in time that you have a peek into the past, or does the past come into the future and they collide? What do you mean?
It's basically like, well, it starts off as just a peek into the past. Like these windows, like you'll see in this last panel here, you'll see that people from the present can't travel into the portal. But that's the start. Things do change. It's this phenomenon that's kind of like, fucking with everyone on the planet. This has been, causing all sorts of diplomatic problems, and, everyone's, sort of panicking. So the government, sets our protagonist, Olivia Bryant, on an assignment to figure out what's going on. Obviously I don't want to spoil that here, but I will say that at the end of the day, the idea behind the book, the story, is that it seems like this big sci-fi thing where you got this crazy time and space phenomenon going on, but it really is about three people. It's about a mother, a father, and a daughter. And it thought of it as, what if Christopher Nolan wrote and directed a family drama?
But dude, the way you do bring along the comic, like for example in the Torrent, which I did read, like I said, it did feel like a movie in my whole head. There was some scenery that you were doing, I get, in the story wise, that I was reading along with your partner. You guys made that feel so, movie-ish.
Wow, thank you.
In my head, So my imagination ran wild with it. I can't imagine this, dude, man. You're incredibly talented. What? Can't wait to dig into this baby right here. Man, look at this art, man.
The art is great. I'm so happy with it, and I think Benny and Chris did they make such a good pairing. This was a blast to do. This was, again, another pandemic thing. I was on a Zoom with the folks at Dark Horse, and they were asking me, not just what I was up to, but like, hey, what other ideas are you kicking around? And
what's floating in that head of yours?
Yeah, I mentioned this book because I think they had said something like, they wanted, they were like very specific, like, we'd love something sci-fi with a familial bent. I'm like, ooh, I got one of those. That's on my list.
How many notebooks do you have of stories? What's the archive like? I can't imagine.
Well, here's the funny thing, actually. Like, a number of years ago, I went digital. So my notebook is really just my computer. Because I put everything into Evernote, and then about 3 months ago, I switched over to Apple Notes. I moved all the all the entries over. I keep, like, I was talking with Charles Soule about this last week. Like, I'm like, maybe I should go back to working analog for a bit. There's something very convenient about working digitally.
Always the convenience, but just the analog is just so much more for me in tune with things. Sometimes you grab that pen and pad, and take your feet off and get grounded onto the earth. Get that energy, kiddo.
I like write down, when I work longhand, I write down all my notes on my iPad with the Apple Pencil, and it feels just like writing. But I know what you're talking about. There's something even more tactile and real about working with paper.
Yeah, man, definitely. But I mean, look, gorgeous book, and this baby's out now, or coming out.
It's out
Right.
now. It's out now. It's funny.
Another, make it rain, folks. Make it rain. Go to that comic shop. What are you
Well,
doing?
it's funny because like yesterday, I did a signing for Torrent at a shop, and the retailer, a guy we both know each other for years, he was like, what's this book Fragmentation? And I'm like, what do you should be asking me? You should have ordered it. Like, and then
I've been doing a double signing here. Let's get it done.
And then I go to the place of like, oh my God, how many retailers haven't heard of the book? So yeah, I don't know what the sales are like on Fragmentation, but it's out there. It's a hardcover book. It's a nice little package.
Yeah, I mean, again, some of these books just need help and getting marketed. The department's got to do better at sharing the news. Other websites need to stop being bougie about what they share.
Yeah,
send it to me. I'm sharing it. I appreciate it. What do you mean? Why not? It's love. You guys are working, doing stuff for us to be entertained. Why would not share that and spread the goodness, kiddo? I mean, look what you got for me. You got the Torrent, you got that Fragmentation. Then you got that other book that I have pictured here. What's that last joint right there?
Oh yeah, Last Flight Out. Yeah.
What's that?
That's a series I had done for Dark Horse. We collected it into a trade paperback back in November. And that's, it's funny, that's another familial kind of story. It's about basically this dad who's sort of a workaholic, right what you know. And he's working on this, sort of project to evacuate the Earth because the Earth has become uninhabitable. And just when the last arc, the very last of 3 arcs, is supposed to leave the Earth, his estranged daughter goes missing. And he's got to find her sort of, and the clock is ticking because, once that last arc leaves, they're going to be stranded. So it's a race against time. I sort of describe it as a father and daughter reconciling at the end of the world. That one was a real blast. Edward Ferragato did this incredible job illustrating it. We've got a lot of fun little bonus things inside where, like, in the middle of an issue, we'll like have text pieces or like Twitter chains and stuff that sort of help build out the world. That was a lot of fun to write. Actually for the trade paperback, I wrote essentially like an extra piece that continues the story a bit and sets up a potential sequel. I'm a big fan of back matter in graphic novels and trade paperbacks. As a consumer, I prefer, when I buy a DVD, I want it to have like a commentary track or bonus features or whatever, deleted scenes.
Yeah, man, so, give me something extra.
Exactly, 100%.
Back for the buck.
Yeah. So we've got that, we've got this cool, little extra mini story that's in the back of this one. And we also included these sort of preview pages that we had generated for social media that, you can't get anywhere else. So it's we're trying to make it worth everyone's while to pick up these things.
See, folks, someone that cares about you, your dollars giving you that extra bang right there. So when you re-sign, go to your comic shops today, order it. Go. If it's a bookstore, get them graphic novels, get it done. Support. So, and talking about support, Mark, are you going to do any Comic-Con appearances this year? Can we see you anywhere? Will you be signing anywhere?
That's a good question. It's funny. I did a signing last night in Winnetka. I'm doing another signing on Saturday in Van Nuys. I'm doing another signing next week in North Hollywood. So, I'm doing a lot of signings here around Los Angeles. I haven't figured out which conventions I'm actually gonna go to.
You gotta go to San Diego.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna go to San Diego for sure.
Go as a guest or
my hope is that I'll do some panels and do some signings and stuff. I have to figure that out actually. I don't think I'll have a table. I've tabled at conventions and it's not the greatest thing for a writer because artists can sit there and draw all day.
Sure.
Exactly type.
Well, you could be a guest at one of the booths when they pimp the book. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's my hope. That's my hope. So yeah, it's funny. Like Comic-Con feels so far away because it kind of is. But I definitely
really
get out there and do more conventions this year because
please come to New York too.
Oh yeah, well, I'll definitely do New York Comic Con. I did New York Comic Con last year, but I kind of because of COVID, I sort of did it very low key. Like I didn't do any signings. I just did a couple panels, like very, it was like I'm gonna dip it was like the first convention I'd been to since COVID, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna ease myself into this, see how this goes.
Take it easy, like they say in the uptown. Take it easy.
Yeah. So I like, but it was great, and I love New York, like we were talking about in the green room. Like New York is the best. So I'll definitely do New York. I'll definitely do Comic-Con. I'll probably do a couple of others. Trying to figure that out. I'm definitely going to go as a guest. I don't know if I'll do any panels or any signings, but I'm going to go as a guest to Star Wars Celebration in London. In April. Yeah, because I have to. I just have to.
Oh, and we're talking before we go, because I know I also saw something else announced that you're working on. Talking about the stars.
Oh yeah. Yesterday yesterday was a good day. We announced that I'm doing a 5-issue miniseries for IDW based on Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
The motion picture. Were you all right? Wait, how did you? Were you a geek over Star Trek? And if so, how did you feel about this?
Well, it's funny. In many ways, like the truth be told, my entry into Star Trek really was through the Mego action figures.
Okay.
Those are the first things the first time I became aware of Star Trek. And my dad had watched Star Trek, and I would I'd watch little snippets and be intrigued. But the truth is, it wasn't until the motion picture that I had really sort of my full-on exposure to Star Trek. And that's actually why because originally when I talked to IDW, it was just, they wanted to do a series based on, the original series crew. And I'm like, could I do that in the movie era? And they're like, sure.
Oh man, so the license is open to everything. Oh
yeah, they were totally into it. So so I'm having a lot of fun playing in that time period, because also the period between motion picture and Wrath of Khan it's really not explored, and for me it was very formative. So I was I was excited to dive in there. It's been a blast.
I see that smile won't go away. Like, this is a fire one. I'm gonna have fun with this one. That's dope.
I'm having a blast. It's funny. Like Heather Antos, the editor, she saw, I think, my script for issue 2, and she's like, "You're really enjoying writing Kirk, aren't you?" Because look at the movies, particularly in in the 2 through 6, is kind of funny. He's got a sense of humor, and there's a twinkle in his eye that wasn't in the motion picture or in the original series.
He knows he's cheesy. He embraces.
Yeah, he knows he's a little, and that's my Kirk. That's the Kirk I grew up with, So I've been writing that version of him, and Paramount and IDW have been very patient with me in my doing that.
Oh, that's fantastic. Is there any dream project that you would love to touch upon? Let's manifest. Is there any dream character or anything that you would love to get your hands on that you haven't had an opportunity yet?
I would love to do a Star Trek Star Wars crossover. If for no other reason than I want Sulu to pilot the Millennium Falcon. That would be my dream. Of course, that would never happen. I would love to, I've written for Marvel and Lucasfilm in comics a lot. I'd love to do something for them in the live action space. That would be a blast.
Any character in particular that you think?
I mean, look, to be totally honest with you, in terms of Marvel, I'm a huge X-Men fan. Any X-Men would do it for me. And in terms of Star Wars, I gotta say, like, I really want to see a second Han Solo movie, and I've been having such a blast writing Solo. That would be
man.
writing Solo 2 would be a lot of fun. That would be that'd be a labor of love.
You heard it. Let's manifest it, folks. All right. Let's get it done. I love it. Mark, you're amazing, man. Before we go, last one right here. What type of advice would you give any type of folks trying to step into the game today? You know what? Read a lot and write a lot. I mean, it's funny. There's no magic to it. It's those two things. It's reading a lot, like, because you learn as much from the bad stuff as you do from the good stuff. And write a lot, like, practice. It's like getting to Carnegie Hall. That's really, I always say, like, it's funny. It's a hard job, but it's not a complicated job. It's not like fixing rocket engines. It's you just gotta, like, just work at it and you just do the work and work on your craft, and you do that, and good things happen. But it's also takes a little bit of luck. Luck is that's a very real phenomenon. That's a very real It's a real thing, but don't you worry, you guys got it. As long as you work hard, though, luck will be by your side. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you definitely got to create opportunities for luck to work its magic, for sure. Yeah, man. Again, it's not you expecting it to give and take. You got to definitely put into it to get what you want out of it. All right, that's some real talk right there, Mark. I appreciate your time today. You rocking for it. I've been showing it off, but if you want to stay in tune with what Mark is up to, go to Twitter. It's M Guggenheim, and IG is Marc Guggenheim with a C, not no K. All right, and of course, y'all follow his musings and writings and all, if you will, on his Substack at marcguggenheim.substack.com. And of course, a big shout out to Melissa for connecting us today. So if you create any help with your project and campaign, looking for an amazing PR person, looking for then Don't Hide PR, and visit don'thidepr.com. So the love, all right? So Mark, thank you again. Thank you. See you in person. I'll be hollering web in the hours. That means I'm coming down. So please remember me. All right. Don't you worry. I will, man. And hopefully I'll go to a convention in Boston and we can hook it up in Boston. Let's do it, man. Definitely. It'll be a blast. We could definitely get into some of the geekdom with my fellow comic crusaders that join me. It'll be a blast. And I shout out to everybody who was tuning in, Klepsia Action or Critics. Yo, watch out our studio. You're going to be seeing our awesome new background soon when I hit the studio. So a shout out to my man Claire out there working, making the studio look great. So I saw a person I'm here, you know what it is. Almega, Marc Guggenheim, Comic Crusaders. Woo! Wepa, baby! Thank you for listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. If you like the content, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, please visit comiccrusaders.shop and our extended podcast family over at undercovercapes.com. And also make sure to download the Comic Crusaders app on the Google Play Store today.